Welcome to discover the power of low-code, no-code with Power Platform. So please note this webinar is being recorded and contents will be shared after. Let's see with the agenda. So our agenda today is actually a collaboration webinar that is 60 minutes in duration. The first part of this webinar is dedicated to learning all about the need of low-code, no-code, what is Microsoft's place in the market, and the various tools available. We will then see how this no-code technology was very helpful to bring a client-related business need innovation idea to life with a live demo. During this presentation, please make sure you send your questions in the chat or keep them until the end, as we will be monitoring them and they will be answered at the end of this webinar. There will also be an exclusive invitation at the end, so make sure you stay up until the very end to get your chance to RSVP. So before we start, let's meet your presenters. Nelson will be presenting the need of low-code, no-code, Microsoft's place in the market, and what Microsoft has to offer. I, Karina, will be introducing our client use case and the need of the Power Platform is able to fill in the market. And Alex will be doing a live demo, so make sure you see this, of the app we built with the Power Platform. Just before we start, in order to give you an idea of what you can expect from this session, so here are today's objectives. So at the end of this session, you should be able to demystify what low-code, no-code is and its need in the market. You would also be able to describe potential uses and, of course, benefits Power Platform can assist your business with, along with a good partner. And the most important one, get your creative juices flowing by sharing with you one of our use cases. So before we start learning about low-code, no-code, I wanted to thank, first of all, those of you who filled out our mini 2-question survey. So here is where everybody is at today. So we can see that many of you mentioned having only read about the Power Platform. The remaining of you mentioned only being super green or having just started using it. So there is an awesome opportunity for learning for everyone today, I find, and let's see if we can improve your knowledge by the end of this session. So up to you, Nelson.
Okay, thanks, Karina. So let's good to be with everybody this morning. Let's talk a little bit about what is low code and no code. Low code, no code, it's actually mostly a visual approach to software development instead of traditional line by line hand coded software development, where you really need to declare everything. Low code abstracts most of the complexity and it opens it up at the application development. It opens it up to a much wider audience to participate. There are some professional developers that also like low code, no code, because it really helps them be more productive and get more done. So they can use low code to deal with a lot of the underlying plumbing in application development, such as the data model and all the things like that. What's interesting is that low code, no code technologies have actually been around for some time now. They've actually been around since the late 90s. If you think of older technologies like Lotus nodes, but what's really different today is that low code, no code platforms like Microsoft Power Platform, they are significantly more powerful and much easier to use, and you can create some pretty significant applications with it. I don't want to give the impression that you can create everything with low code, no code. The fact is that a lot of projects, a lot of applications, and a lot of solutions actually have a spectrum of no code, low code, and high code. It's not either or, but yes, you can create some great applications, very compelling applications with low code, no code. And I love this quote from Sebastian, who is the the lead, a team lead and software engineer at Azure Group. The point of low code, no code is to allow the creation of powerful applications quickly and at a low cost, democratizing the development of business applications. So why the need for low code and no code? Where is this need coming from? The momentum around digital transformation, it's really having an impact on the need for more application development. According to Gartner, demand for mobile apps will grow 5 times faster than IT capacity can deliver. And in the next 5 years, half a billion, so 500 million new apps will be created. What's kind of amazing about that is that half a billion, that 500 million new applications, it's actually more than all the applications built in the last 40 years in the computer industry. And by 2024, 65% of apps will be developed with some degree of low-code technology because they will have to in order to keep up with the demand. If we go a step deeper to understand the need for low code, no code, and where this number of half a billion apps is coming from, and how technologies can, like Microsoft Power Platform, can help. Think about this scenario. This is probably a scenario that many of you watching today can really relate to. Every company in the world has these power users or super users that might sit in finance, HR, marketing, a number of different departments within the company. And what these users do is they create some light applications or solutions to help themselves or their colleagues work more efficiently. To be honest with you, a lot of times they create that in Microsoft Excel or some other readily available technology that they find somewhere. Maybe it's Lotus Notes or whatever. And it is kind of funny that, like, in a way, like Excel for many years has been a form of a low-code technology. When you think about all the crazy ways that this application has been used beyond normal spreadsheet use. But it has its limits, and there are a number of challenges with using simpler tools like Excel for those situations. The first one is it doesn't scale, and there are a lot of security concerns. So this is something that happens very often. Somebody has like a super spreadsheet that helped, that they use themselves or with their core team, and then like their department or their division wants to use it, and it's just a spreadsheet, so it doesn't scale. There are compliance and security concerns, like you can't easily bring in data. There's no workflow. You want to enable a mobile interface to it, so it has its limits. Now, worse yet are the situation where you might have some users, some business users in finance, HR, marketing, and they have like a great idea. They're like, oh, I wish I could just solve this one thing for myself and my colleagues or the company, and it would have such an impact on our business, and it would save us so much money and give us so much insight. But those people may not even necessarily have those super Excel skills, so they can't really do anything. And so then they approach IT and they say, hey, IT, can you help me do this? But IT has this huge stack of IT projects that will take them, months and years to get through, and they'll just never get to it. And it's sad. That situation is sad because what ends up happening is these people that have these brilliant ideas in the business, they just forget about it. They just give up on that idea, that brilliant idea that can have could potentially have an impact on that business, and so that idea just dies on the vine. So with what a low-code, no-code framework like Microsoft Power Platform does is it does a number of things. So first of all, it does provide that additional functionality beyond just a simple spreadsheet tool, and it allows you to go beyond and really create some powerful and compelling solutions that bring in AI that allow you to create a mobile and a tablet and a desktop interface and create like a portal experience and robotic process automation with little to no code. And since power users are able to do more, what it does is it allows the application development to be spread across both IT and those super power users that might be sitting in those various departments. So in a way, it's kind of more like a co-development partnership. We know that this is the case with some of our big customers and smaller customers like Schlumberger and Chevron that have hundreds and thousands of Power Apps in their environment. It's really more of a partnership between those super users, those citizen developers and IT, and it works really, really well. It also allows for those solutions to scale because Microsoft Power Platform not only makes it easy for users to create these solutions, these very compelling applications and solutions, but it allows you to scale. It provides security, compliance, and governance, and you can secure it so that you're not necessarily bringing data in and out of anywhere. And it's built on the Azure platform, so there's no really virtually no limit in terms of the functionality. But here's the most important thing: it gives those business users hope that they can could do something with that great idea, and it fosters innovation from the ground up. Right? These users, these business users, they are the ones that are closest to the business. They understand those challenges, those issues within the business very intimately, and they're the ones that have these great ideas and give them the tools and the technology to at least start to plant the seed of an application or solution, and then bring in professional help, IT, to help grow and scale that solution. So that's really an important concept. This last slide on the need just shows how the demand for developers is really exceeding the supply, and it's actually widening. And this has actually never happened in the history of IT. There are actually more developers today that are hired by non-software companies than software companies like Microsoft and SAP. And that's a testament to the need of these to digitally transform. 86% of organizations, they struggle to find technical talent to build applications, hence the need for low-code, no-code technologies to allow a greater segment of the application to participate in that application development process. It's so important. So now let's talk a little bit about the benefits of low-code, no-code, and I'm going to pass it back to my colleague, Karina. Karina?
Thank you, Nelson. So I'm assuming you're all curious to see which benefits, is most important. We did send you a 2-question survey yesterday, so the answer to the second question, we were very curious, to be honest, to see which of the benefits mattered the most to you. So thanks again for those who participated. So here they are. Bada boom. So this is what you answered. From what we saw, from the results we gathered, what is clearly the most important benefit to most of you is the rapid time to market. So let's see in details what these benefits are comprised of. Of course, this presentation will be shared with you so you can keep it later, but low cost. Of course, it goes hand in hand with rapid time to market. So it is critical to digital transformation. It can also have, of course, increased productivity and client satisfaction. Easy to use. Mind you, being the super user Nelson was referring to earlier, I would MacGyver an Excel spreadsheet, but in no way would I be able to work out the Power Platform tools. Still very easy to use for the IT professionals, and it helps to build simple processes. Rapid time to market. It does help be able to bring apps to market rapidly, and adapt to an ever-changing normality or new normality with quick prototyping. It's also very scalable, as Nelson was mentioning earlier, as it makes your apps grow with your different needs. So now, Nelson, We talked about low-code, no-code, Power Platform. So what does Microsoft have to offer in the market in regards to low-code, no-code?
Okay, thanks, Karina. Yeah, let's take a look at what Microsoft has to offer. Now, Microsoft is, first of all, Microsoft is really well positioned in with the analysts, Forrester, the Forrester Wave, the Gartner Magic Quadrant. This is, like I mentioned before, these technologies have been around for a while, and there are a number of vendors that have had similar technologies for 10 or 12 years. But Microsoft, just with its offering just over 2 years is already positioned in the leaders quadrant for both Forrester and Gartner. In fact, I think it actually debuted in the leaders quadrant, and so that's the testimony to the great offering. And if we go deeper into the components of the Microsoft Power Platform, there's really 4 big components, and there's some complementary services. So Power Apps is the tool that you create model-driven apps and Canvas apps, and we're going to see a demonstration of that very shortly. Power Automate is for workflow. Power Virtual Agents and Power BI, those are the core pieces, and we'll go into each of these very briefly in just a second. And then there's some complementary services like robotic process automation or UI flows. There's a tool to build AI into your applications. There's a tool low-code tool to build portals and so forth. Now, Power Platform is the way that we extend Office 365 and Dynamics 365. And in fact, there are a number of first-party Dynamics 365 apps like Dynamics 365 for Sales, customer service, field service, and marketing, and talent. They're actually built on the Microsoft Power Platform. So why is that significant? The reason why that's such an important thing is it's because Microsoft is providing you as a customer, as a partner. We're providing you the exact same platform, the exact same tools to build your solution, to build your app that Microsoft itself uses to build its first-party business applications. So let's go into each of these. So the first is Power Apps, and I'm not going to spend too much time on these because we're going to go into a demonstration very shortly. But just to give you an idea of the quickly of the interface, but this is Power Apps, and this is the interface that we use to create a Canvas app, and in a way, it's kind of similar to PowerPoint and Excel in that the screens of your application are kind of like slides in PowerPoint. You can incorporate pretty complex logic and formulas in there, very similar to some advanced Excel formulas. But it's very much a, what you see is what you get experience, very graphical. Same thing with Power Automate. As you're building out your business processes, as you're building out your workflow, it's very much drag and drop. It's also very graphical, and you can put in some complex logic there in terms of if-then conditions, branching off and going off and doing different things there. Power Automate works with a feature that we have called UI flows. It is essentially robotic process automation. And what's amazing about this feature is that there are some legacy applications that still exist out there in the world, where there is no application programming interface. There is no way of programmatically getting data in and out or doing something operating that application programmatically. And so what UI flows actually allows you to do is it allows you as a user to go through and go through that application manually, and it will record your screen clicks, and then you can play it back and to automate that process. So if you need to take data from for example, a mainframe, and yes, they still exist, and then copy and paste it into Microsoft Excel, you can create a UI flow to record those actions and include that as part of your application and solution. Now, Power Automate, one of the key things about Power Automate is that there are over 300 connectors to various applications that allow you to take data in and out of those applications, manipulate actions, things like SAP and Box and a number of different applications out there, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so forth. So that's really key. Power Virtual Agent, what this is a low-code, no-code solution for building bots. And so again, very graphical. You can create your bot experience on the right-hand side of the screen. Again, there's branching that's allowed. You can at some point, if you ask, you're creating your bot, you can ask the user a question, and then go off and call a Power Automate or call a UI flow to go off to a different system, check something, get some data, bring it back in. The bot can be deployed to a website, to Facebook Messenger, to a few different channels. And it's great because it also provides some reporting and some analytics on how people are actually using the bot, the conversation threads. You can analyze all of that. As well. AI Builder is another incredibly powerful tool. Again, putting the ability of AI into the hands of citizen developers, power users. And so with this tool essentially allows you to incorporate some AI. There's a number of AI models out of the box. There's more coming, but the ability to form processing, object detection, prediction, and more. And so you're able to do things that normally a data scientist would take weeks and months to do. You can do them within just a few minutes, an hour, a day. But in the case of object detection, for example, and this is a real life scenario where we have a distributor of Pepsi, a PepsiCo distributor, and they go to a store, and with their smartphone, they're able to just simply take a picture of all of the bottles and cans of the Pepsi products, like Pepsi and Mountain Dew, on a shelf, and they're able to instantly count. And that was a Power App that they created using this technology. And so you're able to train your model, go through a very simple wizard as a user. You don't need a lot of images, like you only need like a few sample images. But this is the power of Power Platform and low-code, no-code technologies, that it empowers you to do this. And then so you can really concentrate as a user, as a developer, as a customer, you can really concentrate on the business benefits of your solution in your application versus the plumbing and the underlying functionality there. The last couple ones are Power Apps portals. And again, this is a low-code feature in Microsoft Power Platform that allows you to create a portal interface. And there's a number of different templates that we provide. There's a customer service template, a partner template, employee self-service template, community template. Again, very, very much what you see is what you get, publishing a portal. Now, what's really key is that your solution and your app that you create with Microsoft Power Platform, all the data is in one place. And you could actually have like a mobile experience to that application. You can have a desktop experience, and you can have a portal interface, all going back to the same data source. And so that is incredibly powerful. Finally, the common data service is really kind of, in many ways, it's really the heart of Microsoft Power Platform. Yes, in Microsoft Power Platform, you can create an application, a solution with a couple of different data backend sources. Like you can do it, use SharePoint lists, you can use SQL Azure, you can even use Excel as your backend for your application. But for probably arguably the most powerful option for your backend data source is the common data service. And as the name implies, it's really more than just a database. It really is a service. Like if you really want to, it's a service that comprises of a few Azure services in the back end. Like it's SQL Azure, it's Cosmos DB, it's Data Lake. But that's all abstracted to you as a developer. Like you just see one thing, so it's just one monolithic user. And there's this thing that we talk about when we talk about the common data service to try to illustrate kind of the power of it, and it's called the ripple effect. It's kind of like if you ever, if you ever take like a stone, I'm sure a lot of you have done this. You take a stone and you skim it across a body of water like a lake, and you see it kind of ripple across the surface of the water. And the same kind of effect happens when you use Common Data Service. You create one entity, and an entity or an object, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like a table in a typical database, right? It's just an entity. Could be like if you want to create an app or a solution in Microsoft Power Automate to do property management, you create like a property entity, a property object. And as soon as you do that, what that does is it enables like this ripple effect of services, security, logic, data, storage, integration. So as soon as you create that entity, which only may just take you a few seconds, all of a sudden, with one check of a checkbox, you can enable auditing on that and authentication. You can enable duplication detection, calculated roll-up fields, business rules, data validation, a number of these things that if you were to start with from a raw database, you as a developer, you would have to go through the effort of setting up a duplication detection and setting up a number of these things. And these are automatically lit up for you as a application developer. And this is part of the reason why the time to value that Karina talked about, the time to value, the time to market is so fast. It's so high because of the just mind-blowing amount of productivity that you get from Microsoft Power Platform. So for that, now I want to pass it back to my colleague Karina to talk a little bit about the Power Platform use cases and to also introduce a demo.
Yes, thank you, Nelson, for all these different components and what Microsoft has to offer. So if you might, would you give us the honors of introducing us to the world?
Yes. Yeah. So now I want to introduce you to the team at Azure Group. And Azure Group is a Microsoft Gold partner specializing in software development. And what they do is they help SMBs grow with the cloud and help support businesses to fully relaunch their operations with a flexible cloud working model. Azure Group is based in Montreal, but they work with clients everywhere, all over the world, all over Canada. They've been in business for 20 years, which in this industry is incredible. It's like being in business for like 100 years. I've had the pleasure of working with Karina and the team at Azure Group for some time now, and I'm just so impressed with them in so many different ways. There's a lot of things that make them unique, but the one thing that really stands out is their background and their credibility of decades of software development, and their understanding that, as we start off the presentation, that very often a solution, an app, does involve a spectrum of no code, low code, and high code, and they get that, and they understand the value and the critical importance of time to value and creating solutions very quickly and rapidly prototyping, so they can get business highly customized apps very quickly to the market. So with that, I'd like to now pass it over to Karina and the team at Azure Group to go through the demonstration.
Thank you, Nelson, for this fantastic intro. Now let's go on. I will speak to you about the need of this prototype that we built, and we'll go right with Alex for the demo momentarily. Let me just talk to you about the business and IT needs. I think that by now you understand that there are so many different needs in various types of businesses using any tool that is coming handy. So I just thought I would give you the office. So before jumping in, here's my previous personal life experience I had with a very large team that was full of resources, yet only once in a blue moon my software needs were ever came to life. So my needs, I felt, were very simple, and they needed, according to me, very little development, yet I was always told that there was a huge backlog and that my item was never prioritized as urgent, aka not interesting, or not technically challenging enough, or simply that there was a lack of budget. So here is an example that I'm presenting to you, a good old Word document. So ever since I started sending end of sprint reports to my clients, so you see the example here, I had an urging need to automate this information. That came from various sources, so budget used, features development, and oh, sorry, I need to, un momento, por favor, just one moment. Yes. Yes, sorry. Apparently, I'm not sharing my screen. Share. Yes, I'm sharing this. No. We can love a technical difficulty. Here. Let's go here. Would this work?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, thank you everybody for appreciating this moment. Yes. We will get there. So thank you to our producer, Paul. He was in the background. Very helpful, as you can see, to have a producer when you do webinars. If you need information about producing a webinar, you can contact us. So going back to where I was, sorry about this. I just want to show you my office slide because you missed it. There it is. So again, going back to the need. So this is the kind of reporting my clients would receive. And I had to go gather information in DevOps, in Dynamics, do some sort of mashing and adjustment with the data that came from various sources. So I knew this information was readily available in several apps, and there must be a way that we could automate this and make this a bit more dynamic, right? So our challenge was to stop manual reporting and bring it all this data together in one place. So our goal was really to increase our productivity by reducing the duplication of efforts and of course reducing the risk of corrupting files like Nelson was mentioning earlier. So all of this and having a modern, interactive and very sexy reporting tool to present to clients. So introducing the 10,000 feet view of what this tool would look like. It encompasses multiple elements Nelson mentioned earlier, so Power BI, Power Automate. It's all there and connecting with DevOps and Business Central like Alex will be showing it momentarily. So ready to see the magic that happened in less than 2 weeks. I'm not a fan about animations, but I think it was needed here. So this is what we were able to create with our BA in under 1 hour. So our need translated to her, made this with Power Platform. And after 2 or 3 days with 2 developers, they were able to create something like this. That was kind of functional. And after a week of working, this is our second iteration. And the last one, a fully functional app in 2 weeks. So I think this is incredible. You can see the value. Remember when we were saying that the time to market is very valuable? I think you can see this here. This is amazing, and I think you can't wait to go to the demo with Alex right now. Alex?
Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Karina. Hello, everyone. At this point, we would like to go a little further and do a quick overview of the different tools and features of Power Apps. We will do so by exploring the app that my colleague Karina just presented and by navigating the different Power Apps modules that we use to build it. As a reminder, the app we built is a tool we offer to our clients so they can follow their projects and communicate with the project team. It's basically showing information from both Microsoft DevOps and Microsoft Dynamics Business Central in a way that is easy to navigate and easy to understand for our clients. To bring our data together and provide our users with a single source of information, we have leveraged Power Apps, Power BI, and Power Automate. For our use case, the Power Platform offered the best set of tools to achieve our results, and this is what I will show you today. So it all starts at make.powerapps.com. This is your central place for all your Power Apps development. For the developers out there, this is your Visual Studio for Power Apps. As a first step, you will most probably want to create an app. You have the choice of creating Canvas apps, model-driven apps, or a portal. You can also choose from the many templates that are available. They are very useful if you are starting your Power Apps journey and simply want to learn the platform by exploring examples. I would not necessarily start a project from those templates, but they are a good learning resource. Once you have created your app, you will find the apps in the Apps section of the make.powerapps.com portal. It was briefly described previously, but let's show a quick live example of the 3 types of apps to better illustrate their purpose. I will start by showing a model-driven app. This is a sample from Microsoft that basically shows a couple of entities to manage products and reservations. It's an equipment lending tracking system. Think of a model-driven app as your typical data management software. With this app type, Power Apps allows you to create apps to manage data for different objects with the kind of user interface artifacts you see all the time for this kind of use case. It's mostly following the master details UI design pattern, which is very efficient for data management. To create a model-driven app, you start by modeling your objects in Common Data Service. The same way you do it when you model your tables in your traditional databases. You describe your entities, the data fields, the relations between the different entities, etc. You can even define business rules, which I find very interesting. From there, once the entities are defined, you can automatically expose them through a standard and automatically generated user interface. You end up with a nice and standard user interface with lists, forms, actions, all bound together around your entities. The forms and user interface layout are built in a way that is easy to understand and, more importantly, that is efficient. Although the user interface is quite customizable, I would say that what is provided by Power Apps out of the box is already great for data management. On top of what is provided by default, you can build quite complex UI layouts where the main focus is on the objects and the data, but that can be quite rich with the addition of dashboards, custom forms, and Power Automate flows. You can even embed Canvas apps that we will show later inside a model-driven app for even more flexibility and richness. The second type of app I would like to briefly show is the portal app. Power Apps lets you create and edit web portals to expose your objects to external users. For example, your partners or clients. You can think of Power Apps as a WordPress on steroids. You get a basic layout, but you can, of course, customize it and add all the bells and whistles you want. The portal WYSIWYG Designer lets you create pages with static content, but the beauty of it is that because it's connected with the underlying connectors and the Common Data Service, you can also expose data to your external users. One thing to note is that the security and authentication can be integrated with your Azure Active Directory. This is great stuff to make your life easier and provide value to your users. Finally, the last type of app I would like to show is the Canvas apps. This is what we use to create our Stratus app, as described by my colleague Karina. Let me give you a quick tour of the app and we'll be able to dig into the technical stuff after. As a reminder, Stratus is a project reporting application. The structure of the app is as follows. On the left side, you have a sidebar that allows you to select a project from the list. This data is coming from Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. Once you have selected your project, you see a list of sprint right below. This information is coming from Microsoft DevOps. When you click on a specific sprint, you see a bunch of information coming from our 2 main sources, Microsoft Dynamics Business Central and Microsoft DevOps. The Overview tab shows you, for example, the position of your selected sprint in terms of deliverable, budget, schedule, and scope. This is coming from a dashboard that we previously created in Power BI and that we embedded in our Canvas app. You get additional info on the sprint budget in a second tab. This is also coming from Power BI. It's a dashboard tile that we published to the Canvas apps. The tool lets you also see some specific sprint information, such as the list of user stories that were done during a particular sprint. This information is coming from Microsoft DevOps. It's interesting to notice that up to this point, all the information you saw was coming from external data sources. However, on top of what you saw, to keep track of the sprint status, we are using the common data service behind the scenes. This is like our private database for our Canvas app. We also use the common data service to keep track of the comments that can be exchanged within the team. Speaking of comments, this is a simple feature where users can enter comments on a specific sprint to explain some situation with the project, changes in the priorities, etc. On top of that, comments can be posted. Comments posted here can be sent to a specific Microsoft Teams channel so the whole team can be alerted about it. Let's do a quick example here. I have this comment that I prepared previously, and when I click Save to commit it to my sprint, it will be sent out directly to my Teams channel for the whole team to see it. Here's the message I just posted. The point here is not the app itself, but the fact that the information is coming from various sources and is assembled together in a single view for the users. This was made possible very quickly thanks to the low-code, no-code approach. Let's see how it's done behind the scenes. First, we needed to create data connectors. We have created one connector for each of the external systems we needed to access. Azure DevOps, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Business Central, etc. We chose built-in connectors because they were already available for the systems we wanted to integrate, but we could have created our own custom connectors if we had to integrate with some in-house system, for example. Creating a custom connector is not necessarily a trivial task, but it can be done. We could also have used a data gateway if we needed to connect to on-premise data through the Canvas app. Besides the common data service storage, which is in fact private to our app, these connectors are the means of communication with external data sources. Without them, a Canvas apps will not do much. Once the connections were made, it was time to create some components. Components are basically reusable UI artifacts. Our two examples here are the project workflow bar that we saw at the top of the demo, which is connected to the common data service, and the project sprint selection sidebar that we saw on the left side. And this one is connected to Microsoft Dynamics Business Central and Azure DevOps at the same time. Both of these components have been created first and were meant to be reused in a Canvas apps in multiple screens if it was the case. Just zoom out a little bit here. Once our components were built, we simply put them together in a Canvas apps and bind them to one another so that the data flows from one component to another. This binding activity is done through the usage of properties and some small pieces of code. We could say that this is this so-called low-code part of things. One last thing I wanted to touch in this presentation is the fact that you can bind your Power Apps with Power Automate. In our app, as you saw earlier, we wanted a feature where users can enter comments on a specific sprint. And we wanted these comments to be sent automatically to Microsoft Teams. We have done that through a Power Automate flow that we linked to our Save button in the Comments tab. So here's the Power Automate flow. This Power Automate flow is quite simple as it is comprised of only one activity, which is to send a message to a specific team channel. However, those of you who are familiar with Power Automate know that you can have very complex and very sophisticated flows that allow you to perform calls to external systems, calls to Azure functions, for example, etc. Power Automate is incredibly powerful and flexible. So with that, that basically concludes my demo. My personal appreciation of Power Apps in general is that it's a very interesting set of tools, and for a wide range of use cases, it's really a game changer. The low-code, no-code approach has been around for a while now, but now that big players are embracing it, basically, it will just get better and better. That being said, and Nelson previously mentioned this as well, Power Apps, as it is also the case with any technology, is not a silver bullet. You need to understand it well to judge when to use it, and there will always be cases where you will still have to build your system the good old way. So that concludes my demo. I think we could go to a couple of questions if we have some. If not, I have a couple of questions here that we saw very often. So let me just maybe give them to you and provide some answers. One of the questions we often see is people, or especially developers, are asking, as a low-code, no-code developer, what are the main pain points we see alleviated? And maybe Nelson, if you want to jump in, feel free. My answer to that is that one of the main benefits we saw is time to market. And even as pro developers, it's interesting to release software very quickly to our end users. And because of Power Apps, Power Platform, and the whole infrastructure that you get, you don't start from scratch. So you can basically start an app not from a blank page in Visual Studio. You start with an already existing framework and a set of infrastructure that will basically speed up the process and have your users get their application very quickly. The other good point here is that you can also involve your power users. Sometimes development teams will go on their own for a while, and then they will push their application to the end users after some sprints. But it's really interesting to have your power users involved in the development process as you move forward, so they can give comments, be part of the development process, and they will be more involved in the decision making after that. Maybe another question that we often have is the what is the difference between no code and low code development? There's a bit of confusion around that. So just to give you a little answer on this. For me, no code and low code is it's in the same category. At the bottom of things, when you start an application with the kind of platform you have with Power Platform, you start with no code. You basically design your application a little bit like Nelson mentioned in PowerPoint, where you build your screen, you connect your different elements together without writing any kinds of actual code. Once you reach the limitations of this, WYSIWYG, or I would say configuration part of things, you need to move a little bit forward, and you need to add little pieces of code here and there to make your application more responsive, or to do just additional stuff that you can't really do with a no-code approach. So this is the low-code part of things. You add small snippets of code to call external functions or things like that. So you basically reach a plateau with no code that you can break with some low-code development. Once you again reach the limit of low code, you need to go a little bit further and then maybe add some very complex code with Power Automate and Azure functions, and maybe your own APIs that you have built on the side. So this is basically a progression that you can make with the kind of platform that is provided by Microsoft, where you start with no code and you make your way up to maybe just low code if it's sufficient for you, but you have the flexibility and the opportunity to go further and add, I would say, pro code development to your application that you want to deliver. And this is done through Power Automate, and like I said, little small pieces of code that you can throw in your application here and there when you want to build it. So back to you, Karina.
Thank you, Alex. So now, before we conclude, I wanted to well, first of all, thank you, Alex, for this awesome demo, and also building with your team this application. It will be very useful. So before we present our exclusive invitation, which I mentioned earlier, we would like to know if the content provided in today's session actually met or was aligned with the audience attending. So we will be sending out a recording of this session along with the link, pretty much like the one you received yesterday, to answer answer the 2-question survey, just to tell us if the content match your expectations. So we thank you in advance for filling out this question, because it will help in future webinars. Now that you've seen the value of having a partner collaborate with you on delivering fast apps to market, we have the exclusive invitation for you. So it is actually a Power Platform workshop, hands-on lab, app in a day, that is offered to you. So in this event, you will learn how to create custom business applications that do run on mobile devices without any code writing. There will also be an opportunity to have a dedicated one-on-one with Alex to do whiteboarding design session with your application needs and be able to create a mock-up of it. Based on similar past events, we did receive multiple requests. So in order to get the most out of it, we will be extending this offer to only 10 participants. So if this is interesting to you or your team or colleagues or network, please make sure you RSVP at the address that's right there. So Power Platform Workshop at azurgroup.ca. With the recording we'll be sending, I will make sure that I add this address to ensure that you do RSVP. And I really want to thank every one of you for participating. I would like to thank our producer, Paul, who you were not meant to see, but you actually saw. So thank you, Paul, for your help. Thank you, Nelson, for being there. For those of you who have partners or colleagues that would appreciate this content, but they're francophones, please note that we will have a French session to follow in September. So stay tuned for details in LinkedIn and other channels. So last note, so from all of us, thank you for attending this very first, but definitely not last, collaboration webinar with Microsoft, and looking forward to hearing your feedback. Thank you.